genuine preacher has to be sent. He has to be a herald who proclaims a message that is binding for those who hear it. It's not just the development of thoughts or sharing one's experience. The question is, how do we know if a preacher is actually sent? That's the question that pops up. You remember the picture, the image of the stones in the river? So Paul started that everyone who is calling upon the Lord will be saved, and then he brings this fivefold chain of argument in and shows that a preacher has to be sent. My rabbi always told me, if you want to find the next stone, if you want to have the context, you have to find the question. There's always a question that is being answered with the next stone. So the next question, or the question is, how should I know that a preacher is not just somebody who claims to be having to say something, but how shall I actually know that he is real? And I just want to set your thoughts in train with this next stone in the river. It's verse 15, the second half. Paul simply asks by throwing a quote of scripture at our head. He says, how pleasant are the feet of those who proclaim good news. And I would like to at once quote the context here. It's Isaiah 52 verse 7. He's quoting, how pleasant upon the mountains are the feet of those who proclaim good news, who publish peace, who bring news of the good, make known redemption, who say to Zion, your God is king. And I want to show you how I get to the answer that Paul is telling us by throwing this quick quote of scripture at our head and as the next stone. Paul is throwing stones. You understood me right. So how do we know that the preacher, that a herald is indeed sent to Israel? The first thing, if I look at this quote, is it's a good message. It says here, how pleasant are the feet of those who proclaim good news. Talk about redemption. Talk about peace. It says in Hebrew, in Greek, I'm sorry, the original language here is Greek. It says ta agatha, which is all the good features of the Messianic kingdom. Now look, let me be again honest to you, as a Christian to Christians, as a non-Jew to maybe mostly non-Jews. If thoroughly well-meaning, Bible-based Christians speak about the Jewish people, and even if they meet and get to know them personally, and I'm talking about as somebody who has been living for 3 decades here in this country. I've seen a lot of Christians come. And most of the Christians I'm occupied with are real Bible believers. Now, if they're interested in Israel, and if they're talking about Israel, most of what they're talking about is negative. It's terror. It's frightening. I've been working as a journalist for 18 years in this country, and I know what I'm talking about. What sells is bad news. But let's go back to the Bible. It's the great tribulation that will come, and you don't say that always, but you certainly believe that either before or in between we are being raptured away. So the tribulation will come for Israel. And then we talk about Jerusalem being destroyed once again, and 2 parts of the people in the land will be cut off. And it talks about the birth pains that are described in Matthew 24, or the wars with Gog and Magog, or the battle in Armageddon. And I have faces in front of me. I talk about one Christian who asked that in the Jezreel Valley, and then the guide came up and said, hold your tongue for a moment and just think that if all that happens, what you are saying here, it's me and my children that are going to fight and to die. So misguided curiosity very often can turn a good message into something bad. And I tell you honestly, somebody who comes and speaks about terror and negative things, I know that he is not a preacher that has been sent. The second thing is, if we go back and see a text in context, and Paul is quoting something, so we have to ask where it's coming from, we land in the book of Isaiah, and in the second part of the book of Isaiah, not the first part. The first part is the Isaiah the judge, Yeshayahu HaShofet in Hebrew. The second part is Yeshayahu HaMenachem, Isaiah the comforter. And actually, the second point is those preachers who are being sent, they have a message of comfort. My rabbi always wanted to hear from me the starting words of this Isaiah, Nahamu, Nahamu Ami, Yomar Elohechem. Comfort thee, says your God. It's a message of comfort. The third thing is it's a message against all appearances. And you will see that if you go into this text, into Isaiah 52, it says there Zion has to wake up, so it's asleep. It talks about that it's dusty and in captivity. It's been sold, so it belongs to an unlawful owner. We always wait that the people of God belongs to God only. We are shocked if we realize that they are being owned by, I don't know, idols or demons or whatever, that they are ruled by tyrants. It says here in verse 5. Verse 6, it says that my people do not know my name. A lot of people are shocked when they come into Israel and they see that Israel today might be closer to Sodom and Gomorrah than to the heavenly Jerusalem. And it's true. Now, if you're an ambassador, if you're a herald that has to proclaim here in this context, you have to bring good news. So it's a news against what we would think naturally is something that they need or needs to be said. And I hear that over and over again when I meet Christians and they see only how Israelis drive. If they are Germans, they are orderly, and Israelis need a lot of redemption in their driving. I know that. Everybody knows. The last thing is, and I think that's most important to us as Christians, and I read to you the whole text in the beginning, the message here is your God is King. It's an age-old message. It's not something new. We Christians normally come and say, oh, I have to tell you something no eye has heard, no eye has seen, no ear has heard, whatever. No, it's something very old. Your God is King. It's not my God. It's not my... You remember that we have to distinguish between Jew and non-Jew? So to know whether somebody is a preacher that is genuine, he brings a good message. He brings a message of comfort. He brings a message that is against all logic, all outer appearance and experience. And fourth, he brings an age-old message.